Okay, welcome to my lead guitar worship tutorial, explanation, whatever you want to call it. Try to organize this as much as I can, but I just have my phone, so we'll see how it goes. If the camera work's not great, I apologize. Before we actually get to the actual guitar stuff, I just want to briefly talk about what the purpose of lead guitar in a worship band is specifically. So you have all different instruments, each one has their own purpose. The drums keep rhythm and provide dynamics. Bass is going to provide the low end. Acoustic and keys are both providing the middle. And then the lead electric guitar, if you play it rhythm electric, you're just playing chords. You are filling in more of the mid end, which can be useful, but really, when you're playing lead, you want to be playing up here, because that's where you're going to cut through the mix, and that's where you're going to provide the most dynamics. So the two main purposes of lead guitar are to fill in the high end of the mix and provide dynamics alongside the drums. When I play lead guitar, I'm almost always most in sync with the drummer. If the drummer's not playing anything, I'm usually either not playing anything or playing really quiet. If the drummer's really loud, I'm really loud. If the drummer's building, I'm building, etc. And that's sort of, most instruments play that way, but lead guitar especially, you and the drummer are going to be the main providers of dynamics, which is hugely important in worship music. And so my goal today is to give you some tools to do that yourself. So first, before I do that, I want to show you my pedal setup, just as an example of the different settings I'm going to be using to achieve this. I have a really simple setup, just reverb, delay, overdrive. Delay is just going to be tap tempo, and you don't have to have, you might have your own pedal board, you might not, at least at, if you're doing this for Shig, Christchurch, there's a pod that the tech guy can explain how to use for you, and explain how to create different settings or use different settings, etc. But basically, I tap tempo with this and it's always on. For delay, overdrive, if it's quiet, overdrive's off. If it's loud or upbeat, it's on. That's pretty much the only rule with that. And then I have 4 different settings saved for my reverb. So I have low reverb, medium reverb, high reverb, and swell. Swelling, not going to be too necessary for you to do, but if you want to learn how to swell, basically you're only going to be swelling. It's at the beginning of a song or during a prayer, at the end of a song. So the main ones I'll be talking about will be the other reverb settings. And so with my low reverb setting, I pretty much only ever play with it when the overdrive is on, because without it sounds pretty empty. And then for medium reverb, that's sort of for quieter parts, to add a little extra ambience to my playing. And then big reverb is basically reserved for big parts. And so I won't get into the details of that. You don't have to worry too much about that specifically. You'll figure out what guitar tones sound best for what you want to play as you go about it. And so right now I'm just gonna briefly explain sort of the tools I use to play lead guitar, but first you kind of have to know at least a little bit of music theory. So if you're watching this, I'm assuming you at least know how to read chord charts. And ideally you'll know what a major scale is, and how to use the number system. If you don't know how to do that, highly recommend looking up some major scale fingerings on a guitar, and especially highly recommend looking up how to read the number system. If you look up number system worship, or like Nashville Numbers Explained, it changed your life, promise. Everything I do on the guitar is based around that and based around the major scale. And so to start, I'm going to basically show you my 2 basic chord shapes that I use for pretty much every song, no matter what key it's in. So they're one of the first one starts with my pinky on the high E string, and the other one starts with my pinky on the B string. And so it really, which one I use depends on what key I'm in. So if I'm in the key like D, I will use D, E, F, G, basically anything from D to G. I will use the high E string fingering, chord shapes, and then if I'm anywhere from like A flat A up to C, C sharp, I will use B string fingerings, chord shapes. So let me just go through the chord shapes within each major key. So using D as an example, starting with my finger on this D, that's the 7th fret G string, and this D note, 10th fret E string, and then the 3 on the B string, which is 7th fret. If you just keep your fingers between those 4 frets, so 1, 1, 4, you can play the entire major scale. And I basically just constructed chord shapes for each chord that you would use in a worship set based around those notes. So 1, 1, 4 is the root chord, or D major. 3, 2, 1 is the 2 minor, or in E minor and D. 1, 1, 3 is the 3 minor, or F sharp minor in D. 1, 2, 1 is the 4, or the G in D. 1, 4, 3 is the 5, or 3, 4, 3, if you want to do that. Is the 5, or the A major, and then really easy, 1, 1, 1 is B minor, or the 6. And those are pretty much the only chords you're going to use in a worship set. You're not going to use a 7. So to go over that again, 1 minor, oops, 2 minor, 3 minor, 4 major, 5 major, 6 minor, back to the 1. And those are the chords I use. And if I'm playing in D, E, F, G, doesn't matter, I just move those up here. And I will just play the chords using those chord shapes for the song. And then I can go from there. I can play any notes in that major scale. And so the other chord shapes, I'll use A as an example. Actually, let's use C as an example, because I'm going to play that later. C major, so in C major it's 10, 12, 13 on the D, G, B strings. That is the root shape. Hopefully you can see my fingers. If not, try to explain what notes I'm playing. And otherwise you can also try to match it by ear based on what I'm playing. So this is the 1 major shape. The 2 minor shape is, so similarly I'll use this fret is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. So 1, 3, 4 is going to be your major 1 chord, or C major. 3, 1, 1 is going to be your 2 minor chord, or D minor. And then I just move that up to play the 3 minor, or E minor. So it's just 2 minor moved up 2 frets to get the 3 minor. So technically that's 5, 3, 3. And then for the 4, really easy, 1, 1, 1. And that's going to be F major. 5 is going to be 3, 3, 3. That's G major. And then 6 is, you move down 1 string to the A. So the A is 3, the G is 3, and this is 4. So that's the 6. chord shapes. So if you're playing in D through G, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, use the first chord shapes that I showed you. If you're playing in like A flat, B flat, B, C, C sharp, use the chord shapes I just went over that start with your pinky on the B string. And so using those chord shapes, I basically, depending on the key, I'll pick which one I'm using, and then reading, you can just read the chord chart, and instead of playing down here, and now you're providing the high dynamics. So that's part one. It's really easy. You just play chords up high instead of playing chords down low. That fulfills the high dynamic, or the high end range part of lead guitar. Pretty simple. Now I'm going to show you how I do the dynamics, and a lot of that is due to what I'm using on the pedal board, but not all of it. A lot of it is just me playing. So to explain that, I'm going to pick a song, How He Loves, just play through it and show you sort of my thought process and what I would play for that song. So we're going to do it in C. If you don't know, the chords to How He Loves are the same the entire time. C, A minor, G, F, or numbers, 1, 6 minor, 5, 4. Is that the whole time? So if we're playing in C, find the C, your high pinky, pair with your pinky, do the chord shape for the C, for the 1 root, 1, 6 minor, 5, 4. Those are the chords you're going to need for the whole song, basically. And so, let's say we were coming out of a prayer or something, and this is where you could swell, just to provide some ambience. But that's not super important. So to start out, I'm going to be with no overdrive and on my medium reverb setting. And so one thing that's important to note is that I'm basically giving you tools to play chords and improvise from those chords in order to create your own lead parts. But if there's already exists a lead part in the song, for example, How He Loves, it's totally good to play that. In fact, a lot of the times it's good to play that. It gives the audience something to recognize, a melody to latch onto, to let them know, hey, this is the song we're doing. So for How He Loves, if we were to start at the beginning, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I would just play the lead part for the whole first intro. If you want to, you can pull up the chord sheet for How He Loves in C, and you can see sort of what I'm doing. So the intro, I would just play the lead part. And then for verse 1, I would continue to play no distortion, medium reverb setting, and just play the chords, but play sort of sparse, because there's not a lot of dynamics. The song's quiet right now. There's not a lot of drums, so it'd be like, he is jealous for me, love's like a hurricane, I am a tree, bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. All of a sudden, I am unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory, and I realize just how beautiful you are now. Great your affections are for me. So to was doing that whole time is I was starting with the chord, and then I was adding my own little improvisations on that based on just notes that sound good with the chords. And so if you know the notes that are in every major triad or minor triad depending on the chord, then you can play those notes over that chord and it'll sound good. So for C major, I know C, E, and G are the three notes in that chord, so I can play any of those notes during the C chord and it'll sound good. For the A minor, I can play A, C, and E, and I know all of those notes will sound good over the A minor. For the G, I can play G, B, and D, and I know all those notes will sound good over the G major. And same thing with F. I know that F, A, and C will all sound good over F. So that's pretty much what I'm improvising on. Just knowing what notes are part of that chord's triad and playing those. And you can play up and down with it. So like for the G, I was doing. As long as you're playing notes in the correct key, then you'll sound good. And that's sort of where your improvisation comes in and where you can create your own voice while playing lead. But it all starts with the chords. I always start there and go from there. So that's the verse one. Getting to the chorus one. Still playing pretty sparse. And then for the instrumental, back to the lead part. Playing a little louder, just picking a little harder, basically. That's pretty much it. And then for verse 2, I'm still in the same settings. I'm just going to start picking more often, more rhythmically with the chords, because now the drums are coming in and it's going to be a little more beat with the dynamics. So it'll be, he is jealous for me, love's like a hurricane, I am a tree, bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. All of a sudden, I'm aware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory, and I realize just how beautiful you are now. Grateful reflections are for me. And now when we get to the chorus, you can start strumming. Now we're like rocking out big. This is where turn on the overdrive, and basically you can still pick with it or you can strum with it. It's kind of up to you how loud the song is, how you want to match the drums. So it's, yeah, he loves us. So when the bridge comes up, it's going to drop down a little bit in dynamics, so you will also want to drop down to match that. But the bridge, the whole thing is pretty much a build. So the easiest way that I do builds is just to strum eighth notes and then get louder with them. So, yeah, he's our portion, he's our prize, drawn to redemption by the grace in his eyes. Like a prophecy. where the fun begins. When you're big and rocking out, switch to the big reverb setting, overdrive on, and my little friend, bridge pickup. Usually I'm on neutral pickup, or you can do neck pickup. But when you get to the really loud parts, you're playing lead, switching to big bridge pickup is your friend. Only ever do that with overdrive on because it will sound bad. But bridge pickup is going to make your tone more trebly, and it's going to cut through the mix more, which is going to make it louder in the mix, therefore making the dynamics bigger. So generally speaking, you don't really want to do this unless the drummer's rocking out on the crash. That's kind of a good general rule of thumb. And so what I do in this case is you can play pretty much anything. Chords can work. Yeah, but they can get a little muddy with the big reverb setting. So I generally tend to play individual notes or only like 2 notes. And so one thing that I do is a little more technical is I do tremolo picking. Basically just fence picking. It sounds really good when you have a lot of reverb because then your imperfections don't come through. It's just one big wall of sound. It sounds really big. But one really easy thing you can do, you can just play the notes. Sauce, to be honest with you, sounding really big lead guitar is bridge pickup, distortion, reverb, and octaves. Octaves, you're just playing C and then C octave lower. I'm muting everything else, and you just strum. It sounds huge because you're strumming it, which means you have extra force behind it instead of just picking it. And it sounds huge because there's 2 of the same note, and it sounds huge because you have the bridge pickup on, and it sounds huge because you have overdrive on, and it sounds huge because you have lots of reverb. So basically it's the secret sauce to sounding huge in lead guitar. And so what you could do, the easiest way for like how he loves, is just play the root note. Yeah, he loves us. Notes that line up with the notes in the chord you're playing. So, yeah, he loves us. You can also play lead part again. So yeah, he loves it's really up to you. That's the power of octaves. You can just play a note that you think will sound good and strum it hard. And as long as you're playing in key, you'll probably sound good. One other small little tip: when you've gotten to a point where you don't think you can get any louder, and the band does need to get louder, simple solution to that is just play higher up. So like, let's say you do 2 How He Loves choruses, so you can do, what I would do is, yeah, he loves us, oh how he loves us, oh how he loves us, oh how he loves. So you do that for the first chorus, just play higher up. On the second one, yeah, he loves us. So yeah, that's pretty much like the main basic stuff I want to go over. But the main like last thing I just want to say is like these are just tools that you can use. I basically give you the chord shapes, and then sort of some different things you can play dynamically depending on where the song is. But the one thing I want to emphasize is like I learned how to do this because I had people show me some stuff, but like mainly I came up with it on my own, and I sort of created my own voice and how I play lead guitar. And you can use the chord shapes, some of the different like tremolo picking or octaves or bridge pickup. You can use all those things, but use them as a way to find your own voice when playing. And that's the beauty of like the more you know about the major scale, and the more you're comfortable playing any note on the guitar in a certain key, the more you can come up with stuff on your own. You can find different shortcuts to playing different chords. Like for example, if I'm playing C, I can play this, the main chord shape I was playing, but I can also just play a really, really high D chord shape and play off that. You know, that's just some things that I've learned doing it myself over the years. So yeah, that's pretty much it. To recap, lead guitar fills in the high end of the mix, provides dynamics, and you can use, as long as you're hitting notes that sound good with the chord that's happening in the song, and you're matching the dynamics of what the song wants to be. Usually the drummer, if there's not a drummer, then you kind of have to do it all yourself. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully that was helpful. Yep.